From Eyewitness News, this is Newsmakers.
Technically, he was the first to announce a run for governor, but at the time, Ken Block was a member of his moderate party. Last month, Block made another announcement. He's now a Republican.
I want to see Rhode Island become a place where my kids can graduate and get a job, a good job.
The move means he'll go up against Cranston Mayor Alan Fung in a primary, but Block has been here before and already has made a statement with money, loaning his campaign $500,000 to get things going. This week on Newsmakers, our guest, Republican candidate for governor, Ken Block. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Joining me on the panel, WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning.
Ken.
Good morning.
Let's dive right in. Why do you want to be governor?
I want to be governor because when I became politically aware in 2007, I realized that Rhode Island government creates more problems for our economy and for business and for the people who live here than it solves. I want to be governor to fix those problems, to make Rhode Island an economically competitive place, a place where our kids can get jobs when they graduate, a place where businesses can choose to come because they think Rhode Island is a good place to come, as opposed to a place that has to bribe businesses to come. We shouldn't have to do 38 studios type deals to get businesses to come here. We have to fix our environment so that businesses can look at us and say, that's where I want to be. That's why I'm running.
When you look back at previous governors, who's your model? Who do you think has done a good job as governor of Rhode Island?
So what I look for in terms of leadership, in terms of a governor, I look at who most effectively used the bully pulpit, because that's really what the governor's office is about in this state. And I have to go back to Bruce Sunland to find the last governor
Everyone loves Bruce Sunland
who actually used the bully pulpit, right? I mean, because that's what the leadership is necessary here. You have to be in front of the issue, you have to educate about the issue, then you have to rally the support to show the General Assembly. I think the General Assembly can be moved to do things, but they need to see a strong push of support to get the things done that we need to do, and I think that's the governor's job.
All right, I want to play something for you if we could. Before you become governor, you have to get through the primary first. You're going to go up against Cranston Mayor Alan Fung. We had the mayor on the show last week, and we asked him what his plan was to beat you at the polls. Let's take a listen here. This is Cranston Mayor Alan Fung.
What's going to be on the minds of all the Republican voters is how can they support someone who stood there and helped defeat John Robitaille, who I supported in 10, then stood next to Governor Chafee as he endorsed Barack Obama. That's going to be a big test that he's going to have to overcome with every Republican.
He endorsed President Obama, torpedoed John Robitaille. Cranston Mayor Alan Fung is questioning your conservative credentials.
He is. And I think that it was a big mistake for him to do so. First and foremost, the reality here is that desperate politicians who don't offer a lot of meat on the bones of their policies look to other issues to distract. This is obviously a grand distraction. But much more importantly here, the mayor expressed his admiration for Governor Christie, who actually, made the huge faux pas of hugging a president who helped his state in need. Governor Christie, who endures this sort of attack from the far right wing of the Republican Party. This is not productive politics. This doesn't help anybody assess how and what a governor will do once in office.
Governor Christie's a Republican. So, hugging the president is very different from endorsing him.
Well, I never endorsed it. I never endorsed
as his point, you stood by.
I never stood by any politician.
You voted for Barack Obama.
That's a very different scenario than actually standing on a stage with someone else and offering an endorsement. That never happened. That was a grand exaggeration and mischaracterization of what happened. In 2012, I bought what Barack Obama was selling in terms of changes to health care. For me, as a small business owner, someone who buys health insurance for employees, I can no longer afford to do what we're doing. And I believed that Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, was going to provide the kind of relief that we needed in my business to insure my employees. And it turns out that the promise didn't live up to the hype. And I fairly regret the vote. I'm looking for answers, and those answers didn't come. Well, the other thing that the mayor didn't tell us was that before I told everybody I voted for Barack Obama, I endorsed Brendan Doherty. And I voted for Governor.
Did you endorse him? Did you stand with him on a stage? Or just vote for him?
I voted for him, but it's the same thing, right? I mean, I actually came out and I actually did a press release saying I think Doherty is the guy to vote for in this race. And then, moving back for that, I voted for Don Carcieri twice. Now, do I regret the second Carcieri vote in the face of 38 studios? Yeah, I do too. So, you have to make an educated decision. 62% of Rhode Islanders voted for the president in the last election. Republicans are going to need individuals who chose to vote for Barack Obama to vote for them moving into the next election if they want to win. So I don't think that anybody who's running as a Republican and the party itself needs to open up its eyes a little bit and accept willingly individuals who are independent or independent thinkers who cast a vote one way last time who are willing to cast their vote differently this time.
You mentioned Governor Carcieri. He was our last Republican governor, obviously. How similar would a bloc administration be to a Carcieri administration?
Very different. I would use the bully pulpit 100% differently.
He was seen as the great communicator.
So I don't think he communicated well at all, especially in the second term. It's not just a question of going on to news shows and doing radio shots. You need to come out and rally individuals and business owners to come. Now, when the income tax reform happened, that occurred to some extent. But there's a whole bunch of issues that are hard to fix. We all know what those issues are. And the only way we can get the change made that has to get changed is with somebody coming in and leading via the bully pulpit, really framing the issues, getting the data out there, and convincing everybody involved. This is the way we have to fix it. Here's how I need you to help support getting this fixed. Let's get it done.
Will you seek Governor Carcieri's endorsement?
I will seek everybody's endorsement from anywhere, because I believe that in politics you need as big a team behind you as you can. I think that the governor had already made his endorsement for Mayor Fung, and that's fine. I think it's ridiculously early for anybody to be endorsing anybody in this race, because who knows what anyone stands for yet. Most folks haven't been able to enunciate what their plans are. So I think, open mind, let's listen to what the ideas are and make our choices with some background behind them.
You founded the Moderate Party, ran for governor in 2010 as a Moderate Party candidate. Is that party dead?
I believe the party's dead. When I became politically aware, I believed firmly that the best way to bring the kind of change that's needed in Rhode Island was via a new political party.
Was it a failure?
It was a work in process. It was not effective at getting people elected to date. I believe that ultimately the change that's necessary couldn't be made fast enough via the Moderate Party.
What happens to the campaign contributions that were given to the Moderate Party?
There weren't hardly any donations inside the party
so it's
to
not
be
a problem,
disposed of.
then.
It really wasn't a problem.
Okay.
It really wasn't a problem.
So the centerpiece of your campaign so far, to eliminate $1 billion in wasteful spending from the state's $8 billion annual budget, that's about a 13% cut.
Okay, it's not necessarily on budget. It's $13 billion in wasteful spending. There's lots of spending that happens that's not on budget.
$1 billion.
$1 billion out of $8 billion is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is
Explain then, where is the $1 billion?
Sure. $1 billion of wasteful spending can come from anywhere where government spends money, and a lot of the money we spend is not budgeted. For example, unemployment insurance happens off budget. TDI spending happens off budget. So we have to look inside and outside of budget to find it. We run one of the country's most expensive temporary disability insurance funds. Other states that manage their own funds manage to do it at half the cost of ours. I believe we can drive our costs down by half. We can put $200 to $400 back into the paychecks of working Rhode Islanders for every single person who pays into that fund. We shouldn't be overpaying for that. Our businesses are taking part of one of the country's worst run unemployment insurance funds. We are number 50. Dead last in the country, and we can correct that as well. Other states have solved the problems that we have, and when we solve these problems, we make Rhode Island look more like other states look in terms of our spending and what we do, we become much more competitive.
You went very fast through that. How do you get to $1 billion?
So
roughly, I know we don't have any calculator.
So the TDI all by itself is if it's $160 million we spend now. I believe we can save $80 million every year, repeating year over year.
Okay.
Over 4 years, that's a third of $1 billion.
So $1 billion is over how long?
Well, the answer is it depends, because I can talk to you about the off-budget things with some great specificity, because with some open records requests, you can get an idea of what we're talking about.
Hold on, Ken.
Inside the budget, I think you have to.
You're saying you can cut $1 billion in wasteful spending.
Yes.
Is that just in perpetuity? Is that in a year?
I believe easily within the 4-year span of my first term, we're going to easily find $1 billion.
Okay.
And some of that money will be one-time returns where we stop a specific project that shouldn't happen. Sometimes we're going to dive in, we're going to correct a poorly performing program where the cost savings comes back to us year after year after year. There are great chunks of our government that we've never really looked at from an efficiency perspective and said, are we spending this money the best way that we can?
To Ted's point, put it another way,
Sure.
It sounds like a campaign slogan to me.
Oh,
$1 billion,
not at all.
a number you plucked out of thin air. Did
No.
you just sit down with a
Oh,
calculator
absolutely.
and go
Well,
through all of this?
Again, the TDI over 4 years is $1/3 of $1 billion all by itself. The unemployment insurance, if we bring that in line with the way other states do it, that will recover somewhere. And it's hard because I can't get the exact data out of the Department of Labor and Training. You know how hard that can be sometimes.
Yep.
$50 to $80 million a year recurring year over year. Over 4 years, that could be worth as much as another $1/3 of $1 billion. We're at 2/3 of $1 billion. I haven't even gone into the budget yet. And then just one other idea of the way we look at government and the things we go to take a look at. We spent 50, 60, 70, I don't know what the number was, $70 million building an exchange that will support 500,000 people. If every single person who buys insurance goes onto it in this state, and then it's going to cost us $26 million to run that. And I think all of that spending was a mistake. I think we should have looked early on to merge our exchange with another state just because of our size and the expense. So when we look at things that way.
So what now? Speaking specifically with the exchange,
Yeah.
is that
Which is
your idea?
Health Source Rhode Island,
Health
our
Source Rhode
Obamacare
Island.
marketplace.
Do you hand it back over to the feds?
No, not over to the feds. I would actually almost look at it entrepreneurially. We seem to have one of the few exchanges that works. Maybe we can sell our services to other exchanges that aren't working.
On this $1 billion plan, one can make all the claims that they want on the campaign trail. In reality, there are only a handful of things you can do in your plan the governor might be able to pull off unilaterally.
Correct.
And you point out some of the stuff with the disability insurance you can do without General Assembly approval. Even if
Correct.
that's true, aren't you being dishonest by making it sound like you can flip a switch to make these changes happen? Don't you need the most powerful branch of government in Rhode Island on your page to make your plan happen?
So for some of these things, yes. For some of them, no. To make the fix to unemployment insurance, you need the General Assembly. To fix TDI, you need a press conference. So there's a wild difference.
But the unemployment insurance is a huge part of your plan.
And it is. And here's the point of it, though. There's 34,000 businesses roughly that use the unemployment insurance system the way it was intended, for emergency assistance to employees who lose their jobs due to no fault of their own. There's about 1,500, this is from the DLT, 1,500 roughly businesses who use it seasonally and recurring over and over again. It's those businesses who drive the deficit. It's those businesses that are doing something fundamentally unfair. They're asking the 34,000 businesses to subsidize the payroll operations.
Fine, but you need the General Assembly.
Well, no, I need the 34,000 businesses who are being unfairly taxed, who pay the highest tax in the country for this, to stand behind me and say, General Assembly, fix it. You can't stand there. We've seen this. This is one of Governor Carcieri's mistakes. He tried to be a man alone against the General Assembly. What I'm telling you I'm going to do is I'm going to rally enough of those 34,000 businesses. I'm going to make them care about the issue, and then I'm going to bring them in to get behind me to then pressure the General Assembly to make this good change that we have to do. Everyone says they're worried about economics and jobs. If you're going to worry about economics and jobs, we cannot leave our unemployment insurance system stand as the country's worst. We have to fix it.
Do you have any business leaders endorsing you so far? I know TACO CEO John Hazen-White was on the exploratory committee for Alan Fung, the head of Alex Anani. Which business leaders are with you?
So we haven't asked anybody to sign on and endorse at this point. It's far too early. Anybody who's endorsing this early does so with a complete lack of knowledge about what anyone's plans are. As we fully flesh this out and we talk about all the things that we're going to do, a lot of people will line up behind us just because they can see that what we're trying to do, it makes a lot of sense.
One last question before we go to a commercial here. $1 billion plan, one aspect is to fix our massive debt in retiree health, according to your website.
Yes.
We face billions in unfunded liability in retiree health, also known as OPEB. You say you can fix that or partially fix it by making retirees go on their spouse's health insurance. For a pro-business guy, that seems pretty anti-business. Making Rhode Island businesses foot the health insurance bill.
It's not footing the health insurance bill. What we're talking about doing here is using common sense. It doesn't make any sense for a municipality to buy essentially duplicative insurance. And so what we're asking to do, and other cities in Rhode Island have already gone and done this, and other states have looked at doing this. And by the way, we only have a small window in which to do this because we're already fundamentally beginning to change the way we do retiree health care. But in this 10-year window, when I have someone in my business who has a spouse who works, they have to make a choice on which health insurance plan they use. Where we have municipalities in dire financial straits the way we are right now, it is not unreasonable to ask a spouse who's covered with a plan to pay for the insurance, or have that spouse's insurance pay for the insurance for the family. That makes perfect sense.
But then how is that not the business picking up the bill?
The business is, any business who offers health insurance is offering to do so. When I offer health insurance to my employees, I do so, it doesn't matter if their spouse has access to a plan or not. If that spouse wants to buy insurance through my business, they have the ability and they will buy the insurance through my business. I'm not asking a business to do anything they don't already do for their employees.
All right, we've got to take a break here on Newsmakers. Our guest this week is Republican candidate for governor Ken Block. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. To my right, WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi. Our guest this week is Republican candidate for governor Ken Block. Ken, you say you will veto any social issue that comes to your desk if you're governor. But social issues are important to people. Like it or not, a lot of people vote on social issues.
They do.
So if you want to become governor first to help Rhode Island's economy, are you shooting yourself in the foot by telling the electorate, gee, your social issues aren't important to me?
What I'm telling them is what is my priority. The priority has to be jobs in the economy. We all know, if you ask almost anybody in the street, they'll tell you their most important concerns is
No, you're saying you're going to shoot down any social issue that comes to your desk. That's different than saying the economy is my priority.
And in the greater context, what I'm saying is the settled law exists on every one of these social issues, whether it's gay marriage in Rhode Island, whether it's what the Supreme Court has come down and talked about with abortion and all the other issues. And I believe that as a governor, as a legislature, and as a society right now, if we don't fix what's broken economically, we are in dire, dire trouble. And what I'm saying to everybody is, we need a ceasefire here, because the law is already settled, and the activism, the push, all involves pushing against settled law. Let's leave the laws that we have in place, and let's fix what's really broken here that everybody professes to care the most about. And then once we have an economy that's running well, we have the luxury of being able to step back, and then we can push on the social issues. But to push on those social issues and to vote on the social issues at the expense of fixing the jobs and economy problem that we have right now is wrong. It's not framing the problem in the right way. And I believe the vast majority of Rhode Islanders agree that this is the economic.
Social issues, that's kind of amorphous. I mean, which issues are you thinking about specifically that come up in Rhode Island?
I mean, these are the classic big ones. So whether it's pro-choice, pro-life, even with gay marriage, there's still people who are contemplating maybe we should get bills in to try and undo what just got done, and all those other. I mean, so we have settled law in a bunch of these different areas, and I'm just saying we need to have our focus and have our attention right where our crisis is right now. Our crisis is the fact that we have kids who graduate and have to leave the state. We're almost missing a generation of kids here because they have to go find other places to find jobs. That is #1 crisis. That's the thing that I believe we have to solve.
But to Tim's point, that's also a message to social conservatives that, the status quo is socially liberal in Rhode Island. There is gay marriage, abortion is pretty widely available, and you're saying you would make sure that we keep the status quo, which is in effect a socially liberal status quo.
And what I'm saying at this point in time, where the elements of attention have to be paid is they have to be paid on the economic and jobs-based fronts. It has to be.
Is gun control a social issue?
Gun control I consider to be a social issue. It divides the electorate. There's already settled case law across the board, both at the Supreme Court, and certainly we have a ton of laws statewide right now.
The people that might have to vote you into to get through the primary would say it's a constitutional issue.
And what I'm saying to everybody involved in that debate is the same thing I say on a pro-choice, pro-life debate. There's settled law. We have existing laws that are in place. My stance on that is leave it alone and let's fix the economic issues. It's the only way to bring the focus necessary to bring the electorate together to get the fix that we need. The social issues divide on purpose, and they leave us where we are now. Right? We have to focus on the economic issues.
Let's talk about education. Two policies a lot of Republicans have backed are school choice or vouchers, depending on your point of view, and charter schools. Do you think those policies should be expanded?
On the educational front, I look at the problem, I look at any problem, and I look for, is there a holistic fix? Is there something that we can do that's a game changer to turn around a broken system? And on my website, and baked into my plan for fixing the educational system, it's K-3 education. When we turn a bunch of fourth graders into fourth grade who aren't on grade at fourth grade, we already have a problem that almost can't be fixed educationally. So my educational plan moves backwards and tries to readdress, and we're going to reimagine K-3 education, which if we do that job correctly, with proper remediation, we're going to raise the effectiveness and the educational experiences of every single child who moves through our school system. On vouchers and on choice and on the other issues, I'm not convinced that those are game-changing scenarios right now. So they're not a top-level issue for me. I'm looking at fixing the whole system first.
Bill comes to your desk, expanding the number of charter schools in Rhode Island. What do you do?
I would expand charter schools. I think that charter schools have done an admirable job in this state. Most of them. There's some that have had challenges. What we haven't done well is we haven't taken the lessons from the charters and applied them into the public school system. And I'm a big proponent of learning lessons that have worked and seeing if we can apply those lessons into the public
And briefly,
schools.
would you keep Deborah Gist as the commissioner?
So on any of the questions about personnel, I would ask every high-level director to submit a resignation, go through an interview process. I don't know her personally. I only know what I've read about mostly in the media and that sort of thing, and I can't make a decision one way or the other based on that experience.
Some want to see a 0% sales tax. What do you say?
We are number 25 in the country in terms of ranking on sales tax. That wouldn't be my first order of priority. We have the country's worst unemployment insurance system tax, the 46th highest corporate tax. I would start with the ones that make us stand out like a sore thumb and make us economically uncompetitive and solve those first.
Rhode Island's one of the states, as you mentioned, with our own insurance marketplace, HealthSource Rhode Island. It sounds like you aren't comfortable with the budget they're asking for,
No.
but you do think it's good that we have a state-run one. So I guess how would you handle that in 2015?
So, I mean, if I was governor when the task came to build an exchange, I wouldn't have built it.
That's fine.
Okay,
But I want to ask you about when you're not running to be governor in 2010 anymore.
Right. No, I get that. And so, for me at this point, we cannot afford a $26 million expense to run a very small website and a call center. I'm not even sure all the different components that are there right now. I would like to see a choice of more plans here. I would like to investigate if we can merge our exchange with another state's exchange and get a reduction of costs in terms of leveraging someone else who's a bigger exchange, and hopefully figure out a way if we can bring more choice in terms of plans as well.
Should Rhode Islanders pay back investors in the 38 studios debacle?
So I can tell you, first of all, as governor, that there won't be any kind of a deal like 38 Studios, good or bad. It's a horrible way to do economic development. We need to change our environment to do economic development.
But you have to write the budget to deal with these.
And we have to write the budget to do this. And so the $13 million a year, I've already issued press releases saying that we should not be paying that loan.
You're not worried that that will shine negatively on Rhode Island from
on the
Wall Street?
research that we've done so far, it is not that. A moral obligation loan is not a bonded indebtedness to the state. If it turns out that moral obligation bonds need to be paid and they're treated as they should be paid, we shouldn't do them anymore. Let's just do general obligation and enjoy a lower rate of interest.
So Gina Raimondo's wrong on that. Rosemary Booth-Galogli, who is the director of, Ted, help me out.
Director of Revenue.
Thank you, is wrong on that.
I believe, again, if we come back to the definition of what these bonds are, we shouldn't ever do another general obligation bond ever as a state.
General obligation?
No, I'm sorry,
Moral
pardon me, thank you, moral obligation bond. We should never do one if the reality of these bonds is that the expectation is if we don't pay them, they negatively impact us. There's no point in paying the higher interest rate.
You know, I brought up Gina Raimondo, our general treasurer. What do you make of Ted Seidel's scathing report on how she has managed the state's pension funds, criticizing her for high fees to fund managers? Raimondo calls it a hit job by labor unions. Is she right, or does that reporting ring true to you?
The reality is the money that we've saved on the pension reform is very much being spent in terms of higher fees, in terms of the management of the fund, and I think that's demeaning to the people who the pension reform mostly impacted, the people who draw the money out, who had their COLAs frozen. We had to do pension reform. I was a supporter of pension reform. It was necessary. We couldn't afford where we were going with the pensions. I think it was a grand mistake to take essentially the savings that we had from that reform and then to give them to Wall Street. I think that's a mistake.
Do you think there should be tolls in the Sakana River Bridge?
No, I think those tolls have to go. Part of the savings that I plan on finding in government will pay to have those tolls removed. and we'll pay for the maintenance of the roads with savings in other places.
What's the big policy difference between you and Alan Fung? I don't hear too much that sounds different about
I'm
how
giving you a whole bunch of specifics on things I'm looking at, and I've listened
No,
to...
I know, but they sound like things
this
you
is
would...
This is a crucially important point, because I've listened to politics for a long time, and most politicians I listen to will only give you the airy idea, and they won't tell you how you get it done, right? So, sure, we can freeze tuitions at URI, but how do you do that? Oh, great, let's get rid of the tolls on the Sakana Bridge. How do you pay for that?
He said an infrastructure bank.
So, well, I mean, possibly, I don't know. What I'm telling you is I'm going to find the savings inside the budget. And I've done this professionally, by the way. My company finds waste and fraud in social service spending programs, and my company, along with others in Texas, found just in the food stamp program alone $1 billion of waste and fraud in that program.
Bigger state,
so,
right?
Bigger state, but the point is, and that's in one program. It's possible to be careful and systematic and go through spending programs. When the state government spends its money as carefully as individuals spend theirs, now you've turned government around and you can do really good things.
Christmas tree or holiday tree?
It's a Christmas tree. Look, and by the way, and this plays into the whole thing. It's common sense. We have to do common sense. I have a Christmas tree in my house. We call it a Christmas tree. It's a Christmas tree in the State House. We should call it a Christmas tree.
Ken, we covered a lot of ground today. We appreciate you having on the program. Ken Block, Republican candidate for governor. If you missed any of it, it's online. WPRI.com. For Ted Nesi, I'm Tim White. We'll see you next week on Newsmakers.